Alrighty, friends, we're back for your favorite podcast show of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 654. We are recording on January the 22nd and got a good show for you. So, how's it going, Aubriana?
It's going great. How are you doing? It was so nice to see you last week here in New York.
Yeah, it was good. NRF I think was busy, a lot of traffic, and yeah, we had some good meetings and discussions. We had a lovely dinner that you were able to join us for, so that was nice. And yeah, I think it was definitely worthwhile, being there and kind of reconnecting with that crowd and kind of kicking the year off. Well, at least back to back with CS, it was a lot. But and I'm on the road again in the morning. Actually, I'm heading out to Barbados for FinTech Islands. So yeah, so it just never ends. And in the middle of that, on the weekend, I had a birthday. Your husband had a birthday, so
Yes.
there was that too.
Happy birthday officially on the show to you,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
I know I
yeah,
texted you and said happy birthday, so I hope you had a great time. And now you get to go somewhere nice and warm.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So let's enjoy that for a few days. So
Yeah.
anyhow, we've got a good show, so I'm gonna let you kick it off as usual this week, and we'll
Yeah.
roll. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some navigation. It's interesting thinking about kind of the evolution of like talking to your cars. The story gave me a flashback to, I don't know, many years ago. I was just starting to drive, and my grandmother had this really old car that used to talk to you. But then, I mean, and the car was older than me, but, it would say like, 10 miles to empty, but the gas gauge was always wrong, and I ran out of gas at least once in that car. But we have come a long way since then, and now we are talking to our cars, not listening to them, right? And that also is like very iterative, and it's been kind of a process. So now TomTom and Microsoft are teaming up and working with generative AI for cars. So, kind of trying to improve on how it is to talk to your car these days, right? So, I think everybody's thinking, we always think back to like Kit and Knight Rider, and that was referenced in this story. But, really with like the generative AI, it's being built on Microsoft's implementation of OpenAI. So it's like thinking about using natural language speaking to your car to control your car. So not just like calling and texting, but really using it to navigate certain things. So maybe turning up the temperature gauge or opening the windows or changing the radio station, all the things that you would probably be doing with your hands, but now you can really focus on that 10 and 2 and facing the road and what's happening versus like moving your attention in other areas. So I think this is pretty cool. Well, they also might have some good timing here. Apparently, some car manufacturers are considering removing CarPlay and Android Auto from future models. They're saying that the experiences are just like not really seamless and there's too many connection issues. I haven't personally experienced that a ton, but I also don't use CarPlay or Android Auto. I have older cars, so like in my car all the time. But whenever I have a rental or something, I've never had issues with that. But I can understand if it's not seamless, if it's a poor user experience, there's certainly an opportunity here. So really, that would, if that happens, then you're going to have drivers obviously looking at their phones once again, trying to use their phones to navigate or do certain things. And so you're really going to go back to the same issue. So really what they're hoping to solve, I think, is that this would extend to, again, areas beyond just phone control, like beyond music and texting and calling. And this generative AI experience is going to launch in what they call their digital cockpit, that is TomToms. And it's going to be like this modular in-vehicle infotainment platform. So it's not something that you can buy off the shelf. It's going to work directly with vehicle manufacturers to provide these more branded experiences, which is my guess that those vehicle manufacturers are going to want more of a branded experience and be able to customize that a bit versus just kind of deferring to the Googles and the Apples of the world. So this isn't the first time they've worked together, TomTom and Microsoft. They actually had a little bit of a patent dispute back in 2009, and that was settled. And then in 2017, Microsoft launched the Azure location-based services based on TomTom providing that location data. And now they've also expanded into Bing Maps, and TomTom is utilizing Microsoft Azure as its preferred cloud provider. So existing partnership, expanding on that, and moving into, in-vehicle navigation and beyond with this generative AI. So I think this is a great move. I think this could really give TomTom some life. We haven't heard a lot of like exciting stuff coming from them in a while, and so this might be a big foray back into the mainstream. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. A few thoughts. So, I was at CES. I did go to, the TomTom, sort of exhibit area, and there was a lot of talk about the Overture Maps Foundation and things like that. I didn't get into, sort of the detail of this and take the time to see any demos of it, but. I can say as, I drive a relatively new car. I've got, Android Auto. I've got CarPlay as well, both happening in my vehicle. Um, and I think that, more and more I am speaking to my car. So I think if you can streamline some of these processes of, changing temperature or opening a window or, um, you know, changing the radio station or whatever the case might be, or, create navigation instructions just by voicing them, I think, these are good things. I think that for me, an interesting thing is so I drive a Volvo and this is my second one. And you know, going from one model year to the current one of the interesting things about it was they dropped the AM transmitter. So there's no AM radio built into the car anymore. And I was like, this is weird. And I use AM radio. Like I listen to talk radio, I listen to sports radio when I'm driving. So I actually had to go and download a app through the Android store for radio, so I could still get my AM radio stations. And so I think like that's, things like that, just in terms of convenience and kind of user preference, need to be accounted for. Like if they're not going to have these sort of native transmitters and things like this kind of built into the vehicle, yeah, and that might be just my own personal issue, but like I think about when I see a story like this, is this, if there's no Android Auto or CarPlay in there, like how do I get that in my car? I guess is the question, right? So, but I think in terms of user experience, I like it. I like that they're kind of working directly with the manufacturers and kind of having this be sort of a more integrated, branded experience. That makes more sense to me than sort of this other thing that's coming from a phone company. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a good partnership, and we'll see how it all rolls out, I guess, in the next couple of years as car manufacturers decide to adopt this or not.
Yeah, and one other quick thing I was thinking about while you were talking is like I think the benefit of using your phone is the crowdsourcing of the navigation that we all rely on, right? Like whether you're using Google Maps or Apple, like you're able to see kind of that traffic flow based on everybody else that's using the same app and driving. And I think that's a huge benefit. So I'm sure they have plans to address that in some way, shape, or form, but that's something that I don't feel like car manufacturers should make a consumer choose, like you should just have all the options. But I do think that baking in a branded experience, maybe you don't want to connect your phone, maybe you're lending it to your mom and they don't want to connect their phone. Like, having something that's there and kind of just like automatically easy to use, I think is a huge benefit. But I don't think you have to sacrifice one for the other.
Right. Yeah. Okay, on to our second story. So this one's a bit of a merger announcement. Um, we're talking about the merger of e-commerce grocery provider platform called Stor.AI, which is based in Tel Aviv, with Toronto-based Mercatus Technologies. You know those guys fairly well here. So there's a sort of a bigger holding company called Relation Shop, which I actually like the name of that. They acquired Store.AI last year, and now basically have acquired Mercatus, merging the two companies together. The merged company is going to be called Mercatus. It's going to be run by Galen Walters, who is the CEO of Relation Shop. So he's going to run the new merged company. Yeah, it sounds like all the Mercatus people are staying on board. Um, yeah, so I think this is interesting because what you're talking about here is Mercatus has this sort of enterprise e-commerce platform. And then the Store.AI side of things with Relation Shop is a platform for unifying first party data and powering, personalized, um, offers and messages and loyalty programs and things like that. The combined entity, you're talking about 1,800 regional grocery chains in the US and more than 400 um, independent grocery stores globally. So they have, operations now across the UK, France, Canada. So this is a fairly substantial, merger in terms of, revenue and customer base and, international coverage. So I like it from that point of view. I think Galen Walters there, he comes from, years at running Safeway. So, certainly understands the grocery space. And I think the other thing for me too that maybe isn't talked about in this story though is, you and I on the show over the last number of months, we've covered this sort of rise of retail media networks. We know the grocers are, jumping in on that, Kroger's doing that, and so on. And I think, for the big box guys, that's one thing, where they've got their own analytics teams and ad teams and all this other stuff. But when you're talking about independent or regional grocery chains, smaller footprint chains, you sort of rely on third-party technology more like this. And I think that, this merger and the scale that it brings, I think is interesting, along with, potentially their ability to power, smaller format, retail media networks. So I like this. I think it's a strong combination, and congrats to I guess from a Toronto point of view, congrats to Sylvana and the Mercatus team as well. This is great.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiments there. I do think there's a huge opportunity for kind of a consolidator to come in and help with those smaller chains and brands, especially in the retail media space. I think that's a great opportunity to be able to drive additional revenue streams for these smaller chains, and I do think it's hard for them to do it on their own. So working with this type of a partnership moving forward could be something to watch for this year.
Nice. All right.
All right, so our next story is an announcement. Just this week, LiveRamp has acquired Habu. So, we've been seeing a lot of consolidation, and now that's happening in the data clean room space. And this deal apparently is worth about 200 million. And the two companies obviously have some clear synergies. Habu is a cross-cloud clean room specialist. So they have these native applications for a lot of the walled gardens like Google Ads and AWS, Amazon Marketing Cloud, and LiveRamp we all know as the marketplace, and really that offline data, applying it to the digital ecosystem. They have the largest identity graph that's probably most recognized in the advertising space. And so there's definitely some clear synergies here. And Habu has really been primarily focused on analyzing those, I would say, like things that are in that black box, right? So Google, Meta, Amazon, all of those different clean room capabilities. So they're going they're pretty deep in terms of who they're reaching on the web. And then LiveRamp on their side has about 900 brands as clients and a bunch of different integrations with cloud and media platforms. So think of all the DSPs that are likely using these and anywhere that serves advertising, which is interesting because another fun fact is that Habu is actually backed by Snowflake, who is a data clean room themselves. So definitely want to dig in a little bit more and understand that. But you know, a lot of times those companies that are using Snowflake's tools, they have to also warehouse their data on Snowflake, which can be limiting sometimes because the natural data partnerships don't have a lot to do with the cloud infrastructure provider. So this, I think, is a great offering and something that will be utilized a lot by the, you know, advertising and marketing industry specifically, as clients and, well, their clients, those advertisers really want to better understand their clients, right? They want to get deeper insights and understanding. They need to do that with a data clean room. And then they also want to be able